I want to give you a practical example. Today, one of the projects we are now carrying on, in particular in Latin America. One of the reasons we are here in Rio is because we have an opportunity. Yesterday we discussed with several universities to meet probably next year in a workshop specifically for this project. I want to also underline that we, thanks to the organization, we also made a cluster of activities between three organizations, which is I'm representing today. Europe for Business is a Brussels-based company. We have several already projects in different European programs in water, in particular between FP7 and Horizon 2020. Also REDINN, which is also two projects in Horizon. One was a very interesting discussion yesterday about smart cities in water and waste. And then my colleague also Lisa, which is here, we have a project in Brazil, which is a very interesting aspect about the social innovation, the socio-economic dimension of water in Amazon region. So I want to just underline that the project we are starting now, in particular from February, the WaterClima LAC, is also open to the Brazilian participation. We are going to do 4 major pilot studies, which is I want to underline this project, as you can see, from the Latin American Caribbean. By end of November, we are going to conduct specific training in Haiti and El Salvador. My idea is to presenting the rationale of this project, in particular the area which is we are now conducting, because are completely different. So we are talking about Mexico in La Paz, and actually it was very interesting because one of the presentations today was mentioned about the impact of the coastal area. So this project is targeting the coastal area, which is important for the urban area, in particular implication of water. And then in La Paz, where we came out with some results, it was 2 weeks before the Patricia. So it was very interesting to make some interesting training and a workshop related to the stakeholders about the climate change adaptation. So I want to show you the project. It will be 3 years project. It's a 3.57 million euros budget. Is funded by European Commission, and this is a project from development cooperation programs. So now the European Commission, I was also mentioned, we're going to push in Latin America the climate and in particular the water issues in the next following years. So in this project, which is one of the 3 sister projects in the WaterClima programs from Latin America, is linked to make the improving the management of water resources in a coastal zone environment. That's why one of the reasons we came here in Rio is also because an implication from groundwater, implication for the floods, an implication for the urban water sectors are become very stressed, in particular in the coastal area. And in particular, this project, in this pilot area, we are expecting some results, which has become quite important. But let's talk about the 4 scenarios that we have, because it's very interesting to see in this ambitious project, the idea of the climate is completely different. So we talk about 2 pilots in the Pacific and 2 pilots in Atlantic, in the Caribbean. So in particular, the La Paz in Mexico, the major activity we have now is to study the water balance and the underground water flow. The consortium is a very mixture between partners from Latin America and from Europe. So we have a research organization, we have also technical SMEs working in particular in specific sectors of environment. And also we have even fund agency, because one of the major problems we always discussing about water is the fragmentation of fund agency. We are going to make in particular pay attention about the fund agency issues about water. So the second important aspect of these activities in Mexico will be related to made some specific involvement of the cities in La Paz in particular for the drinking water. And of course, just to give an overview about Baja California, which is very interesting, is very rich in terms of biodiversity. In La Paz, we are going to make an analysis of effect of climate change, and in particular with this implication with our partners from Mexico, the technological Monterrey, from the water in Latin America, will be extremely relevant to make also this implication of Patricia. And I think this is extremely interesting to see the early warning system, the content, in particular of the climate change modeling that we are going to do. And one of the key aspects in particular in this kind of project by European Commission is to develop a new program in the local economy. And this is a link to the water with some stakeholders that are not related directly to water. We're not talking about only the water facilities. We are talking about the civil society. We are talking about companies that need also water. So for instance, we are now working with the farmers. We are working with several organizations. They need, in particular, the water aspects. So the major aspects, technologically, from the La Paz, as we said, is the identification of the aquifer research area. They reduce the climate change vulnerability. Of course, one of the areas we are very pushing for is the integrated coastal management plan, which is in Mexico, is very fragmented, not only between the federal state, but also state level, which is extremely important to make a clear aspect. And of course, the two major activity, which is the local economy and the improvement of the municipal system of the drinking water in the area. And I think the issues of governance that was already raised is very, very important. And in particular, how we're going to engage the aspect of the implementation more than the decision making. The second pilot, which is now we are starting for the first workshop, and the study visit is in Haiti. As you know, Haiti has been affected in the last few years from several natural disasters. And I think it's completely different scenarios that you can see. We are talking about, in this case, ecosystem, coastal zone, tropical forest. We talk about the difference, completely population distribution, the economic activity are completely different from La Paz, in particular, the very focusing to the agricultural area. We have two partners here from Haiti and also from República Dominicana. Bear in mind that the island is being divided between Haiti and República Dominicana. So we need to also have very good partners to engage these studies. And in particular, now this month, by end of this month, we are going to, as a WaterClima LAC, to make the specific activity about the analysis of secondary information, the environmental diagnosis, in particular in the coastal zone management, about in particular the plan de gestione integrata del recurso idrico, which is extremely relevant in Haiti, because one of the major problems is capacity building, in particular to training the major stakeholders, and that is, I think, is the operators in this case. And analysis of risk of vulnerability of climate change effect, which is related, important from these actions. The results will be extremely relevant is to make these first important governance tools from the local committees the watershed management committee, the local community organization, public institutions, to better using financial mechanisms. Just to give an example, Haiti is small countries, but there is a huge amount of financial support from different funding agencies. From USAID, from Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo, from European Union, from different single development entities. The major problem is to make synergies, and in particular a very important funding mechanism to help this ecosystem, which is very, very rich in these areas. Next year, in October, with our two Argentinian partners, we're going to focus in a completely scenarios, which is a very strong touristic area in the regions. Is nearly 6 hours by car from Buenos Aires. In Mar de la Plata is a very strong particular area from underwater and exploitation from upper field. So we're organizing a week activity. We're already starting the mapping as a water LAC project. And in particular, as you can see from the TPI difference, because of course we are focusing now on this socio-economic aspect of ecosystem services, the cost-benefit analysis, and in particular the major aspect, which is linked to one of the partners we have a Fundación Chile, which is the Chilean institution by the national government related to water sector. We are working in particular to make from the mapping eco-services, in particular the new affect the climate change in Rio de la Plata, and analysis of the climate change of the watershed, which is very, very important in this, I would say, transborder area, because Mar de la Plata is between Uruguay and also close to the Paraguay, which is a very, very important implication, in particular also from the cost-benefit analysis. Now, the areas of the project, as we said, of course, the major objective is the integrated water management to reduce the climate change effect, the coastal zone implementation in the development area. We say that about the drought, the floods, the different cities, and in particular Ambos 21, which is an SME from Barcelona, which is very focused into the geological point of view, in particular for the underground water area. So the methodology from this integrated water management, of course, will be from the treatment, from the recollect, from the consuming, from the distribution, from the production, is to analyze the different sectors involved in water management. This is an horizontal view, which are extremely relevant for us to make the results of the coastal zone action plan related to environmental, climate, social, economic, legal, because legally sometimes, most of the time on the projects are not too much considered. But this is one of the most barriers that we had in the different countries. In particular, what we see in Europe, we have the directive. They are there, but the problem is also the implementation of some specific directives. And this is also, we are very supported to also see people from UNESCO, from all the organizations about education implementation plan. Because the target group are also very specific, but we try now to make it more clear how we can make the difference between the information that we, technical information, but also the skill that we provide, in particular for the universities that are involved. For instance, the technological Monterrey will be targeting as analysis of the climate change risk, the vulnerability of water, and in particular, as you can see for the 4 different project results, we are talking about vulnerability in water supply in La Paz. We talk about Haiti, the coastal ecosystem in Argentina. We talk about the water management international review and underground water in El Salvador. So these, I would say, interdisciplinary approach are extremely relevant to give an overview how is it completely different, the approach in Latin America. And of course, from us, to have something also in Brazil, which is a completely different, and I think it will be extremely relevant to take an analysis in this project. So for instance, just to give an example, with the Fundación Chile, one of the key aspects is also to make a link between ecosystem services and benefit to the local empowerment. So the database, the best practice of better environment and coastal zone management, you can see we have a different area which is underlined of the hotspot of the biodiversity from the Caribbean area, from the Mesoamerica, from the area from Brazil in particular, and from the Pacific coast from Chile. And of course, our major objective is not just to focus on those 4 parts. Our idea is also to increasing this area. One is in Brazil, and one can be another one in Peru area, which is extremely important. So in our case, of course, this is an important aspect to make how we call not only the dissemination, but the communication aspect. The communication sometimes is we have a leaflet, we have a brochure, we have a Twitter, we have here several activities, but this is not the issues. The issues is how we engage the stakeholders. This is, from my personal point of view, one of the major objectives from us is to make, in particular for this project, a synergies with the other water projects. I'm not talking about only the European projects, which are a huge number of projects at European level. We made mapping studies of funding agencies with water in Europe, but I would like to also see the synergies between the new strategy of the European Commission, in particular with the development cooperation programs towards Latin America. And one of the major objectives from us is to make it clear the synergies between the WaterClima project with this ambitious project. And in particular, the idea from us, we have several networks. I think in the afternoon, Professor Zoe will be presenting the role of some specific networks, in particular about the European Technology Platform. I'm working currently in this network, which is open. I'm coming here also to ask if there is any organization from Brazil who will be interested to do this. We already have case studies through Belém, thanks to the Agua Social project. Network H2O network is more than 200 members of cities and regions in waters. So why is it very important for us also to make at local level the aspect of water aspects? And of course, these seminars, which are completely important target, is to make the public water management agents, local, regional, and national managers. Sometimes we see in our experience also, when we see in La Paz activity, we made specific training also to local politicians, which is not easy to translate how is important water. For instance, the case of the draft from São Paulo will be extremely interesting to see, in particular, the impact of the local politician, in particular with the citizens in this case. So the results, of course, is to make a seminar in Brazil. So we have a budget, and the idea is to make the forest by end of next year, and a workshop, maybe in Rio somewhere, that we can organize, and we can invite some important experts, not only from Brazil, also from Europe. Is also to presenting the discussion that we can have about these important current issues. When we talk about climate change, is one of the major problems. The problem is who are the stakeholders, who are the target groups. What we found another project, which is we have a brochure outside, is a Be Water project. So the Be Water project is a project linked to the science policy interface. So how we tackling, for instance, civil societies. So how we can translate the message from the scientists to the society. And I think it is also an issue extremely important. So I want to close here. We have plenty of brochure outside. We have Also the video of the Algo Social, maybe Elisa, she can also show you later on, is a good example to starting also within Brazil, which is now with this important event in Brazil 2018 with Brasilia event, to make clear and to make the rumors, because I was following carefully this event during this week, and I think not only from the message to Paris, but after the Paris, what we should do in particular in Mindanao. Thank you.